What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. This is a continued dialogue with Breakbeat Kid 85. His name is Troy. And Troy asked me in a video, which you guys can see on his channel at Breakbeat Kid 85. He asked me, as far as powerlifting, what were some of my best numbers on my lifts, and how much did that play into gaining muscle? Like, how much muscle and size and thickness did I gain from that? So let me first start off by saying I never deadlifted. The first, maybe dozen times I tried it, so I realized there was something in my back that didn't work like a lot of the other guys that were deadlifting. For some reason, I could not, no matter what form I used, get the pressure off my lower back. Now, I would go on to find out many years later that I had some kind of disc problem. There was probably some kind of birth defect. After I went to a chiropractor and got an x-ray, that probably just wasn't picked up by my regular doctor because it didn't bother me. It only bothered me when I got into that position for the deadlift. So if I hadn't had back problems later on in life, I wouldn't have even known that I had that disc problem. But bottom line is, I didn't deadlift. My squat sucked. I mean, I've only squatted, I think the max squat I did for like a parallel squat with a free bar, with my knees wrapped in a belt, and I had wrist wraps on too because it hurt my wrist, was 495. Okay, now that was probably when I was about 22 years old. Now at the same time, having a weak squat, I had a very strong bench press, and I have a video that's a story time that will be coming out soon talking about how my bench press went up. But what I didn't realize, I forgot to say, that while I was getting that bench press to go up and gaining that muscle, I was using a routine that was training my chest every day. And it was like a 3-week hyper-acceleration followed by a 3-week hyper-adaptation. I wish I had the workout structure, because you can actually plug squat, deadlift, bench, you can plug anything into that, follow the same rep scheme and rest scheme, and still recover, and it'll make any lift go up. It was like a free newsletter thing that came with the Big Beyond Belief book when you got it. It was by Tom Platz and those guys from Optimum Training Systems. You train every single day for 5 days in a row. You trained chest. It had multiple rep ranges, etc. And my best bench press was a 500-pound bench press at 22 years old, and I weighed about 272 pounds. And it was wrist wraps. I do believe I tied knee wraps around my elbows because they felt like they were going to shoot off across the room. So I did have support on there. I was wearing a belt. I always wore a belt, like when I trained, whether it was biceps, calves. It didn't matter. I was always wearing my cousin's belt. So I guess those three things right there would be my best numbers. The deadlift was 0. But I don't believe that the bench press itself helped me build all that mass. I believe that the heavy training and the volume of that workout and the way it was set up is what really took my chest to the next level. There's a lot of guys that can train very heavy, but they don't have the muscle mass to show for it. There's actually a guy at our gym. His name is Alex. And Alex is, I think, a 140-pound lifter. He's about 5'6". He won the Arnold one year in his powerlifting weight division. And this kid has like a 550 squat at like 140 pounds. But he's only his legs are not that big. You know, we have a national champion right down the street from us, Matt Gary. And Matt is, I don't know what weight class he is. He's in a 100% natural league that's tested like 4 times a year. His wife, Susie, who's also a natural powerlifter, who just won the national title 21 times in a row. She's had the national title in her weight class for 21 years now. She had multiple world titles, multiple national titles, and if you look at them, Susie looks powerful. She's short, she's stocky, she's powerful looking. But Matt's very tall. He's like maybe 6'1", and he doesn't have a whole lot of muscle mass. He's maybe 6'1", like 200 pounds, and his numbers are off the charts. So it just goes to show you that, you know, you don't have to be a powerlifter to be big. There's a lot of bodybuilders that are actually a lot bigger muscle-wise than powerlifters. If you see those big, thick powerlifters, like those guys that are like 300 pounds, those guys genetically, whether they were bodybuilding or whether or not they were doing powerlifting, were going to be 300 pounds. Whether they never touched a weight in their life, they were probably going to be 300 pounds. So it's not necessarily the weight training that got them up there. It's their natural God-given genetics. If you look at their wrists are about this big around. Look at mine. You know, I can literally do this around my wrist. You guys can see that. And touch my fingers. I mean, obviously I'm not built for power. So I know you do a lot of powerlifting, Troy, and you're trying to figure out how to branch that over into bodybuilding and get this physique that you're looking for. But the two don't necessarily correlate. They don't necessarily work together. Now, I know a lot of people out there like, oh, there's all kinds of hybrid training, da 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 da. Top powerlifters like Stan Efferding, Johnny Jackson. Who else was a big powerlifter that came into bodybuilding? Anyways, those two, for instance, when they came into bodybuilding, they had to totally change their training routines because they didn't have the muscle mass and the shape that a bodybuilder needed, because those hard basic exercises, those 3 exercises that you're doing a little bit of assistant stuff, you're not really getting the muscle to grow from the assistant stuff. Like, you're not hitting triceps to get them to grow. You're not hitting side delts to get them to grow. You're not hitting rear delts to get them to grow. You know what I mean? You're not doing bent over rows, one-arm dumbbell rows, chin-ups to get your body to grow. You're doing the accessory work to get stronger at you're given lifts for powerlifting, which is not what bodybuilding is all about. So that's just my take on it, and those are my best lifts. And I do not feel like the lifts themselves gave me any advantage to gaining size. biosctraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't argue. www.biosctraining.com is the blog, and we're out.